Welcome back, Zombie Nation. It's your boy MTG Ghoul Dude, and today we're going to be looking at the Innistrad Midnight Hunt Commander deck, Undead Unleashed. It is a blue-black Commander deck that they're going to come out with, and let me just say, this deck is stacked. They are not pulling any stops out on this one. So let's get into it. We're going to start out with the front-facing Commander, Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver, for 2, a blue and a black. Get a legendary zombie warrior. I wonder if that's going to play any part, the warrior part. But it's a 3/3. Whenever a zombie you control dies, if it didn't have decayed, create a creature token with decayed. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie. If you do, draw a card. So you actually, this is a surprising one because usually black has like a, I guess that would go along with the sacrifice ability for black, and then the blue would be your draw. So that's actually very flavorful for going into this set. And man, that art is gorgeous. I bought a collector booster. I'm hoping to pick up a borderless version of Wilhelt for maybe putting in a commander deck or something like that. And these are all going to be in no particular order. I'm just going to go through them and just give my thoughts on them. So for 3 and a blue, we get Cleaver Scab. It's a zombie horror for all those that like them zombie and horrors. And it's a 2/4, but for 3 and tapping it, so you can't use it as soon as it comes out, sacrificing the zombie, so it plays right into Wilhelm's ability. You create 2 tokens that are copies of the sacrificed creature, so not only will you get whatever you sacrificed double, but you also get a token with decayed. Pretty good, a little good synergy with the deck. Then we're going into Crowded Crypt. That art is something else. I love how the zombies are just pulling at that Avacyn of logo, Avacyn, the Church of the Avacyn symbol. But for 2 and a black, we get an artifact that says it's a mana rock, so you can tap it for a black. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a corpse counter on Crowded Crypt, literally filling the crypt up. And for 4 and a black, you can tap and sacrifice it, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with decayed for each corpse counter on Crowded Crypt. Man, the synergy they got going on with this deck is ridiculous. I can only imagine it's just as good with the other commander deck. Then we're going into an enchantments. We're going to get Curse of the Relentless Dead. For 2 and a black, you can enchant player whenever a land enters the battlefield under enchanted player's control. You create a 2/2 black zombie creature with token with decayed. Man, that is just taxing them just to play magic, man. I'm really liking this deck. Then we get Drown in Dreams. For X, 2 and a blue, it's an instant. You choose one if you control your commander, and when you cast a spell, you may choose both. So you get to target player draws X cards and target player mills twice X cards. So that is a wonderful effect, especially if you want to draw then mill yourself for, if you're playing a Scarab God deck or something and you really want to fill up your graveyard to get something good in it. Or if you want to fill up the graveyard for this deck. Then we're going to look at Empty the Laboratory. For X, a blue and a blue, you can sacrifice X zombies. Doesn't have to be token or non-token. Then reveal the cards from the top of your library until you reveal a zombie creature card equal to the number of zombies you could sacrifice this way. Put those cards onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's kind of like a Court of Calling or a Genesis Wave for zombie decks. That's ridiculous. Man, I'm this deck is stacked. Especially if you and it's almost like a Muxus type ability, so you just reveal off the top, you just keep going. So now we're going to go to Ghouls Night Out, and that Gissa art, the Gissa in that art with them Horde zombies is just beautiful. For 3 and 2 black, it's a sorcery. For each player, choose a creature card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. They're black zombies in addition to their other types, their other colors and types, and they gain decayed. So you may get them. You may get one from each opponent, but they're not going to stick around. So you may want to strategize and figure out which ones you would want to keep for longer and which ones you could just throw away. And then we're going to go into the first legendary zombie turtle I've ever seen. For 6 and 2 black, you have Gorex the Tomb Shell. And it's a 4/4. So it's really overcosted in my opinion. But let's see what it does. So as an additional cost to cast a spell, you may exile any number of creature cards from your graveyard. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. It has Death Touch. Whenever it attacks or dies, choose a card at random exiled with Gorex and put that card into its owner's hand. It's interesting because if you got something in your graveyard you don't want, to go away through, graveyard removal, you can kind of just hold it back with this. And then we're going to look at Horde Wing scab. Is it scab or scab? I guess it just depends on where you're at. But for 4 and a blue, we get a zombie horror with flying. Other zombies you control have flying. Can somebody say levitation zombie? And whenever 1 or more zombies you control deal combat damage to 1 or more of your opponents, so you hit multiple people, you may draw cards equal to the number of opponents dealt damage this way. If you do, discard a card that many times. So it's basically you're rummaging and trying to figure out what cards to keep, what cards to not keep. It's good card draw for blue and black in this deck. Then we're going to look at Ravenous Rotbeller for another 4 and a black this time. It's another zombie horror, but when it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice up to 3 zombies. Specific zombies, no other creatures. When you sacrifice 1 or more zombies this way, each opponent sacrifices that many creatures. So if you can find a way to blink this, because it's not a cast trigger, it is a enter the battlefield ability, you can basically just blink it, have them sack 3 more creatures if you have the creatures to do that, and just keep going. But it's also a 4/5, so it's not bad stat for an actual 5-drop. And then we're going to look at Tomb Tyrant. Man, that's just the crown on that one. I bet that pops out on some foil. But for 3 and a black, we get a zombie noble. I think that's our actual first zombie noble. Other zombies you control get +1/+1, and that's a 3/3 for a 3/3. And then for 2 and a black, you can sacrifice a creature, return a zombie creature card at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your turn, only if there are at least 3 zombie cards in your graveyard. It's kind of restrictive, but at the same time, it's an effect you can pull it out if you need it. But it's also at any time, so you could just spin the wheel and see if you get the creature you need, or if you can just get a jump blocker. Now we're going to look at Visions of the Dead for 2. Visions of Dread, my bad. For 2 and a black, it's a sorcery. Target opponent puts a creature card of their choice from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And it also has flashback for 8 and 2 black. This spell costs X less to cast this way, where X is the greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. So it's also in the command zone. It takes effect if you got a real big commander, say you're running Sidisi or Scarab God or something like that. But anything that's like low cost, like Jared or Wilhelm, will drop this down at least 4. So it'll be 4 a black and a black, and you can do it again. But you still have to follow the timing restrictions of sorcery. Now we're going to look at Visions of Duplicity. For 2 and a blue, it's a sorcery. Exchange control of 2 or target creatures you don't control. So basically, it's just a switcheroo for your opponents. But it also has flashback, and it has the same requirement. It costs X less to cast this way, where X is the greatest mana value of commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. I don't know if I like mana value. I'm still used to that CMC, the converted mana cost, but that's just me. But that's all for now, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in. that was the Undead Unleashed Commander deck, and I just want to say thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a good one. Stay ghouly.